They said she was cursed, a girl born with silver eyes and a mark that no mortal should bear. For years, she hid from the world, until the night the Alpha King returned from the shadows, claiming her as the key to the veil between life and death. But when love awakens in the dark, even gods must choose what to destroy or what to save. Evelyn Hale never believed in monsters, not really. Not the kind that stalked city alleys or whispered through her dreams. She believed in deadlines, caffeine, and the quiet misery of double shifts at a downtown bookstore. Until the night her phone buzzed. And everything changed. It was close to midnight when she left work, the streets glazed with rain, reflections shimmering in fractured puddles. She texted her best friend while hurrying toward the subway. "If one more creep stares at my throat, I'm quitting." She hit send without checking the number. Seconds later, her phone vibrated. "You should have quit already." Her pulse quickened. She frowned, slowing. "Who is this?" She typed. The reply came instantly. "The one who's been watching you." A cold gust whipped through the street. She looked around. Only flickering lamplight and slick pavement. "Probably a prank," she muttered, shoving her phone in her coat pocket. But the next message made her stop dead. "Don't go home, Evelyn. Your door already bears my mark." Her heart lurched. The street was empty. The air too still. The world suddenly too quiet. She ran the rest of the way home. When she reached her apartment building, her hands shook as she fumbled for keys. The hallway light flickered. She glanced at her door and froze. A streak of dark red glistened across the wood. Not paint. Not ink. Blood. Thick, fresh, still glistening under the bulb. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. "No," she whispered. "No, no." The symbol was circular, intricate, a twisting loop like an eclipse, carved in crimson. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. Her phone buzzed again. "Now we are connected." Evelyn stumbled back, terror clawing at her. "This isn't real," she whispered. But even as she said it, she knew the words were a lie. Morning brought no peace. She scrubbed the door until her fingers blistered. The mark didn't fade. When she told her landlord, he frowned at her blankly. "There's nothing there, Miss Hale." Her stomach dropped. "It's right." She turned, but the door looked clean. Pristine. Normal. He sighed. "You should get some rest." Evelyn barely made it inside before collapsing onto the couch. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look. But she did. "You shouldn't have tried to erase me. It only makes the bond stronger." She threw the phone across the room. "Stop it," she shouted, voice cracking. Silence. Until 3 slow, deliberate knocks echoed through her apartment. Not frantic. Not random. A measured rhythm, patient. Claiming. Evelyn crept to the peephole. The hallway was empty. But her phone buzzed once more, screen lighting up with 2 words that made her knees give out. Look down. There, at her threshold, lay a single red rose. Its petals were wet with blood. The next night, she dreamed. In the dream, she stood inside a cathedral of shadows, endless arches dripping with light that wasn't light at all. At the center stood a man. Tall. Still. Eyes silver as moonlit glass. When he spoke, his voice rippled through her bones. "You called me, Evelyn." She tried to speak, but no words came. "You texted my number by chance," he continued softly. "But fate never misdials." He stepped forward. His presence was suffocating but mesmerizing. Every breath felt stolen. Every heartbeat borrowed. "Who are you?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "The one your blood remembers." She woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, heart hammering against her ribs. The mark on her door glowed faintly through the cracks of dawn. Rain slicked the streets again that night, whispering over pavement like static. Evelyn pulled her coat tighter, moving quickly through the alley near her apartment. The stormlight painted everything in shades of steel and ash. She told herself not to look behind her. She did anyway. Nothing. Just shadows and the echo of her own boots. But her heart wouldn't slow down. The air felt wrong, too cold, too still. the kind of quiet that came before something terrible. When she reached her building, her keys slipped from her shaking fingers. They hit the concrete with a faint metallic echo that carried too far. She bent to grab them, and froze. A reflection in the puddle. Behind her, something stood at the far end of the alley. He didn't move, didn't speak, only watched her. His coat was black, long, the kind of fabric that drank the light. He looked human, at least until he stepped forward. His movements were too fluid, too soundless. The rain didn't seem to touch him. Evelyn's throat tightened. "Who are you?" she managed. The man stopped just beyond the halo of the street lamp. She could barely see his face, but his eyes, God, his eyes, gleamed faintly silver, like liquid metal beneath the night. "You called me," he said. His voice was deep, calm, and yet it vibrated through her like thunder. She shook her head. "I don't even know you. Leave me alone." "You reached across the veil," he murmured. "Sent words meant for another. But they found me instead." Evelyn took a step back. "I texted the wrong number. That's all. Whatever this is, it's insane." The man smiled faintly, not cruel, not kind. "You think chance binds us? That mark on your door wasn't painted, Evelyn. It was born." She blinked, the name on his lips freezing her in place. "How do you know my name?" "I told you," he said softly. "You called me, and I answer those who summon my name, whether they mean to or not." Lightning split the sky, illuminating his face for a heartbeat. He was too perfect, symmetrical, sharp, and haunting, the kind of beauty that made the air feel heavy. But beneath that perfection was something feral. His pupils narrowed slightly, catching the light like a predator's. Evelyn's body screamed to run, but her legs refused. His presence filled the narrow street like a current she couldn't fight. He stepped closer. The scent of rain and something darker, iron, smoke, night, wrapped around her. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. His eyes softened, though the hunger in them never faded. "To protect what's mine." "I'm not yours," she snapped. Her voice broke on the last word. A shadow of a smile touched his lips. "Not yet." The word struck her like a physical blow. She stumbled back until her spine met the brick wall. "What's your name?" she asked, desperate to anchor herself in something human, something normal. He paused. "Kale." The sound of it carried weight, ancient and resonant, as if the night itself listened when he spoke. "What are you?" she asked. He tilted his head slightly. "Something you once believed in. Before your kind forgot what hunted in the dark." Her pulse hammered. A vampire. He didn't deny it. Instead, Kale closed the space between them in a single stride, faster than her eyes could follow. She gasped as his hand braced the wall beside her head, his body an inch from hers. "You don't have to fear me," he murmured. "The mark protects you now." Evelyn's voice trembled. "From what?" His gaze flicked to the shadows beyond her shoulder. "From those who would take you before I could claim what's already bound." "I didn't agree to anything." "No," he said quietly. "But the veil doesn't need permission. It responds to blood, to longing, to fate." Her breath hitched. "You're insane." He leaned closer, his voice lowering to a whisper that brushed her ear like silk. "Perhaps. But you feel it too, don't you? The pulse in your veins that isn't yours alone." And she did. God help her, she did. Her heart beat twice, once for her, once for something else. Kale stepped back, and the air rushed into her lungs again. "I'll return when the moon calls for you," he said. "Keep your door closed tonight. The veil is thin, and others will smell my claim." She opened her mouth to protest, but he was gone. One blink, and he vanished into the storm, leaving nothing but silence and the faint scent of smoke. Her phone buzzed. One message glowed on the cracked screen. "You shouldn't have met my eyes, Evelyn. Now you can't unsee me." Evelyn sank to her knees, heart pounding, rain mixing with tears she didn't remember shedding. The next morning, sunlight poured through Evelyn's window, but it did nothing to warm her. Her dreams had been wrong, too vivid, too real. She could still feel his voice in her bones. "Kale." She whispered the name once, testing it on her tongue, and the air in her apartment seemed to tighten. The mark on her door had returned. Only now it wasn't just on the wood. When she reached for the knob, the faint crimson light bled onto her fingertips, pulsing like a heartbeat. The veins beneath her skin shimmered faintly in response, silver with a thread of red. She yanked her hand back, gasping.
No, no, no.
The reflection in the hallway mirror caught her eye. For an instant, she saw her own face, but the eyes weren't hers. They glowed faintly, like quicksilver in the light, a mirror of his. Evelyn stumbled back, covering her mouth.
I'm dreaming.
This isn't real. Her phone buzzed. You're not dreaming, Evelyn. The veil awakens. She froze, the chill crawling up her spine. How do you keep doing that? She whispered into the empty room. How can you see me? I don't see you.
I feel you. Her hands trembled as she typed.
Get out of my head. No reply came. But the silence was worse, because she could feel him there, somewhere at the edge of her mind. Not a voice, not even words, just a sensation. A cold whisper brushing the inside of her thoughts. By nightfall, she'd given up pretending she was fine. Her heartbeat had grown erratic, sometimes slowing to a near stop, then racing again when the moon rose. The mark on her door now reached the floor, its patterns curling outward like vines of blood. That was when the knocking started. 3 soft, deliberate taps. Then nothing. She waited, breath caught in her throat. Then, again.
Top, top, top.
Evelyn grabbed the nearest object, a small kitchen knife, and crept toward the door. Who's there? Silence. The mark flickered faintly. Then she heard it. A whisper. Her name. Not from outside the door, but from within. Evelyn. She backed away, clutching the knife tighter. The whisper came again, stronger now, resonating through her chest. Open it. Her head throbbed, a pulse matching the crimson glow. The mark was alive. The whisper twisted into something familiar, his voice.
Kale.
Stop, she said aloud. You're not real. Then why do you bleed when I call? Her breath caught. She looked down. Her palm had split, a thin line of blood welling from nowhere. The mark on the door pulsed brighter. I told you to stay away, she hissed. I told you were mine. The knife slipped from her hand. She sank against the wall, shaking. His voice wasn't in her ears. It was inside her, every syllable vibrating in her bones. Why me? She whispered. What do you want from me? His tone softened. Because the veil doesn't choose without reason. Your blood remembers what your mind has forgotten. What does that mean? A long pause. Then, it means you were never meant to be human. The following night, she woke to find symbols crawling faintly across her skin. They glowed beneath her collarbone, spiraling outward in intricate lines that mirrored the mark on her door. She touched one, and her vision blurred. For a second, she wasn't in her apartment anymore. She was standing in a forest of black trees. The moon hung low, blood-red against a sea of mist. A shadow moved between the trunks. Kale stepped into the clearing, eyes silver, his expression unreadable. This is where the veil touches your world, he said. You're crossing it without meaning to. She turned slowly, realizing the trees weren't trees at all. They were spires of bone, carved with the same symbols that now traced her skin. I want this to stop, she said. I want my life back. You can't unbind what's been awakened. His gaze softened as he stepped closer. But you can learn to control it. She laughed, a broken sound. Control it? You've cursed me. Kale's jaw tightened. You think I wanted this? The veil chooses its bond. It doesn't ask. She glared at him, shaking. Then break it. He stepped forward until they were inches apart, the air between them electric. I can't, he said quietly. Not without killing us both. Her stomach dropped. Us. Kale's voice lowered. The bond runs both ways, Evelyn. When your heart stops, mine follows. Her knees weakened. That's not possible. You'll see soon enough, he murmured. The mark is deepening. When it reaches your heart, the bond will be complete. Her pulse raced. And then what? Kale's silver eyes gleamed faintly. Then, little mortal, you will remember what you were before the world forgot you. The dream dissolved into light. She woke with tears on her cheeks and the faint echo of his heartbeat pulsing in her chest, perfectly synchronized with her own. The world didn't look the same anymore. Every sound was louder, every light sharper, every heartbeat, hers and others, seemed to echo like a drum. By the third day, Evelyn stopped pretending that she could still live normally. She couldn't go to work, couldn't talk to anyone without feeling the weight of the mark pulsing beneath her skin. When she touched the mirror that morning, it fogged instantly, though the air was cold. And through the blur of condensation, her reflection moved on its own. "Stop it," she whispered, backing away. But her reflection didn't obey. It smiled. And then the lights flickered. The knock came again that night. 3 times, slow and deliberate. Evelyn didn't move. She sat curled up on the couch, phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. She hadn't heard from Kale since the forest dream. A part of her had started to believe he wasn't coming back. But then her phone vibrated. "Don't open the door. They've found you." Her blood froze.
They?
The knock came again, louder this time. Then a man's voice, muffled but firm. "Miss Vale? City security. We need you to open the door." Evelyn rose slowly, heart hammering. "Security?" "Yes, ma'am. We received a report about strange lights in your building. Please open up." It sounded normal.
Calm.
But something in the tone felt wrong. Her phone buzzed again. "That's not them. They wear faces, but their eyes betray them." Evelyn hesitated, inching closer to the peephole. 2 men stood outside, dressed in black uniforms. Their expressions were blank, efficient. But when one of them turned slightly toward the hallway light, she saw it. His pupils weren't black. They were gold. She stumbled back, her pulse spiking.
No.
The doorknob rattled violently. "Open it." The calm voice twisted into something harsh, inhuman. Evelyn screamed. The mark on the door flared crimson. There was a roar of impact, and the entire door exploded inward, shards of wood scattering like splinters of glass. 2 figures stepped through the smoke, pale, gaunt, their faces stretched into monstrous sneers. Vampires. But not like Kale. These were feral. Their eyes glowed gold, their teeth blackened from feeding on death instead of life. Evelyn stumbled backward, crashing into the coffee table. One lunged, lightning fast, but before he could reach her, the room darkened. The air turned cold. And then he was there. Kale stepped through the shattered doorway like a storm given form, coat flaring behind him, eyes burning silver white. Shadows rippled around him like living smoke. The feral vampire hissed and lunged again. Kale's hand shot out, catching the creature mid-strike by the throat. The sound that followed was wet and final. Evelyn froze. She had never seen anything like it. Kale didn't fight, he commanded. Every movement was precise, predatory. The second attacker backed toward the window, but Kale's gaze snapped to him.
Mean it.
The word carried power. The creature convulsed, every vein in his body glowing red before collapsing into ash. Then silence. Only the sound of rain dripping through the shattered window. Kale turned slowly toward her, his expression unreadable. "You shouldn't have stayed here." Her voice trembled. "I didn't have anywhere else to go." His gaze softened slightly. "I know." Evelyn's breath caught. "Who were they?" "Hunters," Kale said. "Once human. Now slaves to blood hunger. They serve those who want the veil broken." "The veil?" Kale's eyes flicked to the glowing mark on her collarbone. "The wall between our worlds. Between what you are and what you were told to forget." She swallowed hard. "You keep saying that what I was. What am I?" For the first time, his composure cracked. His expression softened, not in affection, but in grief. "You're of the old blood, Evelyn. Half human, half bound. Your family carried the veil in their veins long before they tried to hide it." She stared at him. "That's insane." "Is it?" he murmured, stepping closer. "Then explain why your body bleeds silver when cut. Why no one else can see the mark but you." Why you dream of me before you've even met me. Her pulse stuttered. Stop it. Kale's hand lifted slowly, hovering near her cheek. You feel it too. The bond between us isn't a curse, Evelyn. It's your blood answering mine. She shook her head, tears threatening to fall. You're saying I'm not human? I'm saying you're more. Lightning flashed through the window, illuminating his face, and for a heartbeat, she saw it again. The shadow of wings stretching behind him, enormous, spectral, shimmering like smoke. What are you? She whispered. Kale's eyes glowed brighter. The first of the Alphas. The keeper of the Crimson Veil. Evelyn took a step back. I didn't ask for any of this. No one ever does, he said quietly. But it's begun. The hunters know what you are now. You can't stay here. Her voice cracked. Where am I supposed to go? Kale extended his hand. With me. She hesitated, staring at his outstretched hand, at the faint veins of silver that pulsed beneath his skin. There was power in him, yes, but something else too. The tiniest flicker of fear. Not for himself. For her. When her fingers brushed his, the mark on her collarbone blazed. For a moment, the world disappeared. She felt him, his thoughts, his heartbeat, the weight of centuries. And beneath it all, loneliness. When the world returned, they were standing on the rooftop. The city stretched beneath them, glowing faintly through the storm. Kale turned to her, eyes softer now. You can still run, he said. But if you do, they'll find you before dawn. Evelyn swallowed, trembling. And if I go with you? He held her gaze. Then I'll teach you how to survive. The wind howled through the broken glass behind them, scattering ashes into the rain. Evelyn took a deep breath, then placed her hand in his. Then teach me. Kale's faint smile held something between pride and sorrow. Then welcome to the Vale, little one. The journey through the city blurred into memory. One moment, Evelyn stood beneath the rain-soaked skyline, clutching Kale's hand. The next, she was standing before an ancient cathedral buried between glass towers, a relic from another age. Its spires pierced the fog like blackened spears, and every window glowed faintly with ghost light. The air here felt heavier, older, like time itself bent around the place. Kale pushed open the great doors with one hand. They groaned open, spilling candlelight onto the street. Evelyn hesitated. You live here? He gave a faint smile. I rest here. Living is something else entirely. She followed him inside. The cathedral's interior was vast, a sea of stone arches, golden murals, and broken pews swallowed by shadow. But what caught her breath wasn't the ruin. It was the beauty. Faded light from hundreds of candles shimmered against painted glass, casting red and silver reflections across the marble floor. At the far end stood an altar, and behind it, a staircase spiraled downward, disappearing into darkness. Kale led her toward it. Down there, she asked. The world above doesn't belong to my kind, he said. Below is where the veil touches most clearly. You'll feel it. Evelyn hesitated, then followed. Each step descended into colder air. The glow of the candles faded behind them until only faint, crimson runes lit the path. What is this place? She whispered. The Sanctuary of Shadows, Kale said. It was built before your world forgot us. Before humans turned our names into myths. At the bottom of the stairs, the passage opened into a vast underground hall. Stone pillars carved with sigils rose from a black, reflecting pool. The air shimmered faintly, as if the entire space breathed. Evelyn's heart raced. It's beautiful. Kale's gaze softened. Beauty and danger often share the same face. She turned to him. You said the veil chose me.
But why?
I'm nothing special. His eyes met hers, steady, piercing. Because you are what it was trying to remember. She frowned. I don't understand. Kale began to circle the pool, his reflection rippling like smoke. Centuries ago, when the veil was formed, it sealed away more than creatures like me. It sealed away memory, entire bloodlines erased from history. Yours was one of them. My family, Your mother's line carried fragments of the veil's power, dormant, forgotten. But you, Evelyn, he stopped, his voice low. You are its echo. The bond between us reawakened it. She shook her head. That doesn't make sense. I've lived a normal life.
He
cut her off gently. Have you? Images flashed in her mind, flashes of light, dreams she never remembered fully. Hands reaching for her through water. A voice whispering her name long before Cale ever did. She swallowed hard. You've been in my dreams.
I told you, he said.
Fate doesn't misdial. They stopped at the edge of the reflecting pool. The surface gleamed faintly, mirroring the ceiling, but there was no reflection of her. She blinked. Where? Cale's hand brushed her arm. Don't be afraid. The pool shows truth, not illusion. She stared at the black surface. A moment later, the reflection shifted. Instead of her human form, she saw herself cloaked in light, her eyes silver, a faint sigil burning on her chest. Her breath caught. That's not me. It is, Cale said quietly. The veil recognizes its keeper. Keeper? He turned to face her. If the veil breaks, the worlds merge. Your kind and mine will tear each other apart. But if it holds, life continues. You, Evelyn, are its anchor. She took a step back, panic flaring.
No.
I can't. I didn't ask for this. Cale's voice softened. Neither did I. The bond between us isn't a chain, Evelyn. It's a choice that hasn't been made yet. Tears burned her eyes. You talk about choice, but I haven't had one since you found me. Cale exhaled slowly, turning away. Then make one now. What? He turned back, silver eyes gleaming in the dim light. If you want to be free, break the bond. All it takes is a single command. Evelyn's chest tightened. You'd let me go? I'd burn for you, he said softly. But I won't bind you. The silence between them stretched. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She could say it. She could end this. Walk away. Forget him. But when she looked at him, the faint sorrow in his expression, the weight of centuries behind his gaze, something in her refused. I can't, she whispered. Cale nodded once, the faintest flicker of emotion crossing his face. Then we begin. He guided her to a circle of runes etched into the floor. This will awaken your connection fully. It will hurt. Evelyn met his gaze. I've already survived worse. He gave a half smile. Not like this. The runes ignited in light, red and silver twining together like fire and frost. The glow wrapped around her, seeping into her skin, tracing the marks already spreading from her collarbone. Pain seared through her. She screamed, falling to her knees. The light poured into her chest like molten glass. Cale caught her before she hit the ground, his hands steady, his voice a low growl of power. Breathe through it, he said. The veil must know you. Her vision blurred, shapes and whispers flickering in her mind. Ancient memories, cities burning, voices calling her name in a dozen tongues. Then silence. When she opened her eyes again, the pain was gone. The marks on her skin glowed faintly, not red, not silver, but both. Cale watched her with quiet awe. You did it. Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. What happens now? His lips curved in a faint, almost sad smile. Now, the veil breathes through you, and those who want it broken will come for you. The nights that followed were unlike anything Evelyn had known. The cathedral above slept in silence, but beneath it, in the sanctuary, time seemed to stretch and bend. Cale taught her not with words, but with instinct, forcing her to feel her power rather than think it into being. Close your eyes, he said one night, standing behind her in the circle of glowing runes. Evelyn obeyed, though her heartbeat was uneven. Now listen. I don't hear anything. Yes, you do. You just don't know what it is yet. His voice was low, a rumble that seemed to vibrate through her bones. She focused, and slowly the silence fractured, replaced by sounds she couldn't name. 1,000 heartbeats, far away. Rain hitting rooftops miles from the cathedral. the slow creak of stone walls breathing with the earth. And beneath it all, something deeper. A pulse that wasn't sound, but existence itself. The veil, Kale murmured. That's the rhythm of it. It runs through all things: life, death, memory. You're part of it now. You can command it if you stop fearing it. Evelyn swallowed, her throat tight. It's so much. It always is. When she opened her eyes again, faint light shimmered across her fingertips, silver-blue veins of energy that pulsed with her heartbeat. She gasped softly. I'm doing that. Kale smiled faintly. You are. It's listening to you. She turned her hands slowly, awestruck. It feels alive. It is. The veil responds to emotion. Rage strengthens it. Fear weakens it. Love changes it. Evelyn looked up at him sharply. And what about you? What does it do to you? Kale's expression faltered, just for a moment. Then he said quietly, It reminds me that even gods bleed. Training became their rhythm. By day, Evelyn rested. By night, she learned. Kale taught her to weave shadows into shapes, to bend light, to silence footsteps, to listen to whispers on the edge of time. Each lesson left her stronger, but also closer to him. Sometimes, when she stumbled, he caught her, hands firm but gentle, holding her longer than necessary. Sometimes she caught him watching her, eyes unreadable, as though seeing something lost to him long ago. But he never crossed the invisible line between them, until one night he did. The storm above raged for hours. Thunder rolled over the city, lightning flashing through the cathedral windows like fire across glass. Evelyn stood at the center of the sanctuary, drenched in sweat, hands trembling with silver fire. I can't hold it, she gasped. It's too strong. Kale stepped forward. You can. Control it. Don't let it control you. The energy flared, snapping like a living thing. Cracks split the marble beneath her feet. Kale. He moved faster than her eyes could follow. One moment he was across the hall, the next he was behind her, wrapping his arms around her, pulling her against him. Breathe with me, he whispered. The power surged through them both. Wild, radiant. She felt his heartbeat against her back, steady and unyielding. Slowly, the storm inside her began to calm. When the light dimmed, the room fell silent except for their ragged breathing. His hands were still on her waist, his chest pressed to her back. Evelyn turned her head slightly. You said emotions change it. Kale's breath brushed her ear. They do. Then what happens if I feel something for you? For a moment, the air between them was painfully still. Kale's grip tightened, just slightly. Then the veil becomes dangerous. Why? She whispered. He drew back enough to meet her eyes. Because it responds to love as much as it does to war. And love between us could burn both worlds. Evelyn's heart raced. So you do feel something? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The way his gaze lingered on her face, the faint tremor in his jaw, the restraint in every word, it was all the answer she needed. She took a small step closer, voice soft. You've spent centuries alone guarding this place. Why me? Because, Kale said quietly, the veil never wanted a guardian. It wanted someone who could remind it what it means to live. For the first time, his hand brushed her cheek, not as a claim, but as something fragile, reverent. The silver glow of the runes reflected in her eyes. Evelyn, he murmured, if I cross this line, there's no going back. Not for you, not for me. She didn't move away. Then don't stop. The space between them vanished. His lips brushed hers, tentative at first, then deeper, the bond flaring like light bursting from the cracks of the world. Every heartbeat, every breath, every fragment of their souls seemed to collide. When they finally pulled apart, the runes beneath their feet were glowing brighter than ever, red and silver intertwining, alive. Kale's eyes widened. You've awakened it. Evelyn's voice trembled. What does that mean? The veil, it's responding to us. To this. The walls began to hum, the pool's surface rippling like it breathed. Shadows lengthened across the stone floor. Somewhere deep beneath them, Something ancient stirred. Kale's expression darkened. We've changed the balance. Is that bad? He looked toward the stairs leading up to the cathedral. For us? Maybe not. But for the world above, he drew in a slow breath. It means they'll come sooner than expected. Who will? Kale turned back to her, his eyes bright with something between awe and dread. The ones who want the veil destroyed, and the ones who believe you should never have been born. The storm above the city did not stop for 3 days. Lightning clawed across the sky, and thunder rolled like the growl of 1,000 unseen beasts. But beneath the cathedral, it was not the storm that made Kale uneasy. It was the silence between heartbeats. The moment Evelyn's power had awakened, the air in the sanctuary changed, thicker, charged. The walls themselves seemed to hum, alive with an energy that should have remained buried. Kale hadn't slept since that night. He stood at the altar, watching the faint pulse of silver light travel through the cracks in the stone floor. Every few seconds, it would flare as if breathing. They've felt it, he murmured to himself. Who? Evelyn's voice came from behind him, soft but steady. She'd changed since the night of her awakening. Her posture was stronger, her eyes clearer. The timid fear that once shaped her words had been replaced by something fiercer, something almost regal. Kale turned to her. The hunters of the Shattered Cross. Evelyn frowned. You mentioned them before, the ones who attacked me? He nodded. They serve no master. They believe the veil was a mistake, that both worlds were meant to merge. Chaos, blood, dominance. They call it purification. And they want me because I'm the key to the veil. You are the veil, Kale said grimly. If they kill you, it breaks. If they turn you, it bends. Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. So, I'm a prize in a war I never knew existed. Kale's voice softened. You're more than that. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. That night, Kale led her to the upper levels of the cathedral, a section she had never seen before. The ancient corridors were lined with murals depicting winged figures, half man, half shadow, their faces hidden behind masks of light. Who are they? Evelyn asked, brushing her fingers along one of the carvings. Kale's gaze lingered on the mural. My kind before the fall. The alphas of the first bloodline. We were guardians once. But when the veil was created, many turned against it. They saw separation as weakness. And you? I chose silence over war, Kale said. It cost me everything. Evelyn looked up at him, her voice quiet. You mean it cost you your people?
His jaw tightened.
My mate. The words hung in the air like the echo of a wound too deep to heal. Evelyn's breath caught.
I'm sorry.
Don't be, Kale said, turning away. She made her choice. She wanted power. I wanted peace. He started walking again, but Evelyn could feel the grief rolling off him like cold waves. For all his strength and centuries of endurance, he carried sorrow the way she carried her fear. Quietly, constantly. The days blurred after that. Evelyn trained harder, pushing herself until her hands shook and her voice broke from exhaustion. Kale taught her to draw on the veil without letting it consume her, to use light and shadow as extensions of her will. But the veil was unpredictable. Some nights, when she dreamed, she would wake to find the air shimmering around her, threads of silver drifting from her skin. Other times, the candles would flicker with her heartbeat. And always Kale was there, watching, guiding, protecting. But he was also withdrawing. Each time their hands brushed or their eyes met, he pulled away sooner, his voice quieter, his presence distant. Evelyn noticed. And it hurt. One night, unable to bear it, she confronted him in the sanctuary. Why do you keep running from me? She demanded. Kale stood by the reflecting pool, his expression unreadable. I'm not running. Yes, you are, she snapped. You look at me like I'm something fragile, something dangerous. But I'm still me. I'm still Evelyn. Kale's eyes flashed silver. You're not just Evelyn anymore. You carry the power of the veil, the bridge between worlds. If I lose control, If the bond deepens beyond what I can restrain. Then what? She interrupted, stepping closer. Then we burn the world together? He hesitated. Yes. Her heart pounded. Then let it burn. Cale turned sharply away, his voice rough. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying, she shouted. I've spent my whole life being told I was too small, too weak, too human. And now that I finally have power, that I finally have you, you want to run from it. Her voice broke. From me? Cale's composure cracked. He spun back to face her, his jaw tight. You think I want to run? That I haven't spent every moment fighting the urge to claim what was never meant to be mine? Then why don't you? Because, he said, stepping closer, his voice low, dangerous, trembling. If I claim you, the bond completes. You'll be bound to me until death. The veil will see us as one. And that scares you? No, he whispered. It tempts me. The air between them pulsed with heat, not from fire, but from the veil itself. The runes on the floor flared faintly, reflecting the chaos in their hearts. Then, before either could speak again, the ground shook. A deep rumble tore through the cathedral. Dust fell from the ceiling as the sound of shattering stone echoed above them. Cale's head snapped up. They found us. The next instant, the great stained-glass window exploded inward. Figures cloaked in black descended through the smoke, each wearing the mark of the shattered cross over their chest. Their eyes glowed gold, their movements precise and mechanical. Cale moved before Evelyn could react. His wings, shadowy and vast, unfurled from his back in a burst of smoke and light. He leapt, catching the first hunter midair, driving him into the marble floor. Stay behind me, he barked. Evelyn raised her hands, light flaring instinctively from her palms. A blast of silver energy erupted from her, catching two hunters and flinging them across the sanctuary. Cale turned sharply, astonishment flickering across his face. You're controlling it? I'm trying, she shouted. Another hunter lunged, blade drawn, gleaming with crimson runes. Cale intercepted him, but the blade nicked his arm. Blood, dark and metallic, dripped onto the floor. Cale! Evelyn screamed. He gritted his teeth. I'm fine. Focus. But as she turned, one of the hunters broke through the smoke, eyes locked on her. He whispered something in a dead language, and the mark on her chest seared like fire. Evelyn cried out, falling to her knees. Cale roared, the sound shaking the walls. Shadows surged from him like a living storm, tearing through the air and crushing the hunter in an explosion of black mist. When the dust settled, only silence remained. Evelyn trembled, clutching her chest. Cale, what was that? What did he say? Cale knelt beside her, his jaw set. He called to the blood mirror. What is that? The one thing I swore never to face again, Cale said, eyes glowing faintly. The alpha who made me what I am, and the only one powerful enough to unmake the veil. Evelyn's eyes widened. He's coming, isn't he? Cale stood, his wings fading into smoke. He's already here. The cathedral no longer breathed silence. It pulsed. Faint cracks spidered through the marble floor, glowing crimson beneath the silver light of the runes. The veil shuddered, not breaking, but shivering, as though something ancient had awakened beneath its skin. Cale stood at the altar, his chest heaving, his blood dripping darkly onto the stone. The hunters lay fallen or vanished, their corpses dissolving into ash. But his focus wasn't on them. It was on the air itself, thick, heavy, vibrating with a power he hadn't felt in centuries. No, he whispered. Not now. Evelyn knelt behind him, pale and trembling, her hand pressed to her chest. Cale, what's happening? He turned, eyes sharp, voice low. He's calling through the cracks. My blood woke him. He'll use the link between us to force the veil open. Who? Cale's voice hardened, ancient pain flickering across his face. Lucian, the first alpha. My creator. The blood mirror. The name filled the air like a curse. The candles flickered violently, their flames turning crimson. Evelyn frowned. The blood mirror, why that name? Kale's gaze lifted to the trembling air above the altar. Because he reflects the worst of what we are. Hunger without restraint, power without mercy. I was his heir once before I betrayed him to save this world. He turned to her, eyes burning. He's what happens when the veil breaks. He doesn't just cross between worlds, he consumes them. Evelyn stood, forcing her fear down. Then we stop him. We've fought before. Kale cut her off sharply.
No.
This isn't a battle you can win with light. Lucian feeds on it. The stronger your fire burns, the stronger he becomes. Her heart twisted. Then what do? Kale's answer came cold. We don't fight. We seal him. They worked quickly. Kale drew ancient sigils in his own blood across the cracked marble, chanting words that made the air hum. Evelyn traced them with her light, silver energy stitching the wounds in the floor together. But as they worked, the temperature dropped. Frost began to crawl up the walls, swallowing the murals, the candles, the runes. A voice, deep, velvety, inhuman, rolled through the cathedral. You would lock me away again, little shadow? Evelyn froze. The voice wasn't in her ears. It was in her mind. Kale straightened slowly, his face carved from stone. Lucian. The air tore open before them, a wound in reality itself. From it stepped a figure taller than Kale, his hair black as obsidian, his eyes gleaming red like molten glass. His presence filled the room, heavy, intoxicating, terrible. Lucian smiled, bearing perfect fangs. My prodigal son returns.
Son, Evelyn whispered, horror dawning. Kale didn't deny it.
You lost the right to call me that when you devoured our kin. Lucian's grin widened. But their screams built empires, didn't they? And you. His gaze shifted to Evelyn, lingering, assessing, hungering. You found yourself a new flame. How quaint. She burns bright, Kale. Shall I take her, too? Evelyn felt the energy within her surge in response, her veins glowing faintly silver blue. Kale stepped in front of her instantly, his voice like thunder. Touch her, and I'll end you where you stand. Lucian chuckled, tilting his head. You can't end what you're bound to, my child. You carry my blood, my power. I made you. You made a monster, Kale growled. And what are you now? Lucian stepped closer, shadows bleeding from his movements. A dog guarding a dying light? Look at you, protecting a mortal when you could be ruling. His words dripped like poison. Evelyn felt them worm into her thoughts. Kale clenched his fists. You'll find I'm not so easily tempted. Lucian's eyes gleamed. Everyone is tempted, especially when they fall in love. The air went still. Evelyn's pulse stuttered. Lucian smiled wider, savoring the silence. Ah, there it is. I see it now, the bond. You've tied yourself to her. The veil chose its heart, and it chose love. How poetic. He raised a hand, palm outward. Then I'll just have to burn it out. The air shattered. Power erupted like lightning, crimson and black. Kale reacted instantly, wrapping his wings around Evelyn, shielding her as the cathedral exploded in light. Stone cracked. Pillars fell. The floor buckled under their feet. Evelyn screamed as the bond flared, raw, searing alive. She felt Kale's pain through it, felt his blood spill, his body weaken as he bore the brunt of Lucian's wrath. Stop, she cried, pushing him away. Her own power ignited, the silver fire bursting from her palms, colliding with Lucian's dark energy midair. The shockwave hurled both men back. Lucian laughed and scathed. So the little flame does bite. Evelyn's hands shook. Stay away from him. He regarded her curiously. Such fire in mortal form. No wonder the veil clings to you. Tell me, girl, has he told you what happens when you burn too bright? She frowned, panting. What? Lucian's grin widened. You become the veil. Evelyn froze. Kale staggered to his feet, blood streaking his jaw. Don't listen to him. Lucian's voice was honey and venom. You think you can save him, child? His blood and mine are one. You'll destroy yourself trying to separate us. But if you come to me, he extended a hand, his eyes gleaming, I can teach you how to survive your power. You can rule the veil itself. Evelyn's chest heaved. The silver light in her veins flickered violently, responding to both voices, Cale's strength and Lucien's seduction. Evelyn, Cale rasped. Look at me. She turned, his eyes were desperate, pleading, human. You're not the veil. You're not fate. You're you. Don't let him twist that. Lucien's smile turned sharp. She's already mine. The floor split open. A column of crimson light erupted between them, swallowing half the sanctuary. Evelyn stumbled back, falling toward the glowing chasm, but Cale lunged, catching her hand at the last second. Don't let go, she cried. His grip was iron. Never. Lucien's laughter echoed above them, then died together. The light surged, blinding and merciless. Cale pulled her close, wrapping his wings around her again, but this time, instead of shielding her, he whispered something she barely heard. A single, ancient word, one that made the veil scream. Ardith. The light consumed them both. When the world reformed, there was no cathedral, no storm, only endless silver mist, the space between realms. Evelyn gasped, disoriented. Cale stood beside her, his clothes torn, blood glinting faintly in the half-light. Where are we? She whispered. He looked around, eyes grim. Inside the veil. Her heart sank. We're trapped. He shook his head.
No.
I brought us here. It's the only place Lucien can't follow, but it won't hold him long. Evelyn stared at him. You used your blood magic to get us here. That's suicide, Cale. It'll kill you. He gave a small, exhausted smile. It might, but it keeps you safe. Her throat tightened. Don't you dare talk like that. He reached out, his hand brushing her face, gentle even now. Evelyn, if Lucien breaks through, the veil will collapse. Both worlds will fall. You're the only one who can stop it. Her voice broke. Not without you. Cale leaned in, his forehead resting against hers. Then promise me something. What? If I don't make it back, don't let the light die with me. Tears burned her eyes. You'll make it back. But Cale only smiled faintly, the kind of smile that knows it won't. And then the mist stirred. Lucien's voice echoed through the veil, faint but clear. You can hide in light, my son, but even light casts shadows. Cale straightened, his expression hardening. He's found us. Evelyn turned, her heart pounding. Then we end this. The veil was neither day nor night. It was light without warmth, air without sound, an infinite ocean of silver mist stretching in every direction. Every heartbeat, every breath echoed like thunder in the emptiness. Evelyn stood on an island of fractured marble, the remnants of what might once have been the cathedral. The runes beneath her feet pulsed faintly, alive but fading. Cale stood a few paces away, watching the horizon with eyes that glowed faint gold in the mist. He looked different here, sharper, ancient, less human. The power of the veil ran through his veins like liquid fire. How long do we have? She asked softly. Cale's gaze stayed, fixed ahead. Minutes. Maybe less. Before Lucien finds us? He nodded once. The veil hides nothing from its creator. It was his before it was ever mine. Evelyn swallowed. Then we end him here. Cale turned to her, his expression unreadable. You're not ready for that. Neither are you, she said, meeting his eyes. But we don't have a choice. His lips curved, half pride, half sorrow. You sound like me now. She stepped closer, voice steady. You taught me to stop running from power. Now stop running from love. Cale's composure faltered. Evelyn. The air cracked. The silver mist tore open, bleeding red light. Lucien stepped through, his presence twisting the very fabric of the veil. His feet touched the marble, and the world around him wilted. The light dimmed. The air froze. Ah, he said, smiling like a wolf. Home again. Cale moved to shield Evelyn instantly, wings spreading. You shouldn't have come here. Lucien's laughter echoed endlessly. You think this realm isn't mine to command? You've grown arrogant, little shadow. You and your fragile mortal. He looked past Kale, eyes locking onto Evelyn. Do you feel it, girl? The way this world hums for you? That's because you are it. Every breath you take weakens the barrier that keeps me out. Every heartbeat pulls me closer. Evelyn shook her head. You're wrong. Lucien stepped forward, smirking. Then prove it. Strike me down if you can. Kale's voice cut like steel. Evelyn, don't. But it was too late. The veil answered her anger, light bursting from her chest in a wave of raw power. The air screamed. Lucien caught it effortlessly, absorbing it into his palm, and the glow dimmed. He smiled. You can't kill what feeds on your strength. Kale moved then, faster than thought. Shadows poured from him like liquid night, slamming into Lucien with a roar. The ground cracked under the force. The two collided, light and darkness, father and son, alpha and alpha, their clash shaking the realm itself. Evelyn could barely see through the radiance. Every impact sent shockwaves through her body. She could feel Kale weakening. The veil itself seemed to bleed with every strike. And then she understood. Lucien wasn't trying to win. He was draining the veil, using their bond to consume both of them. Kale, she screamed. He's not fighting, he's feeding. Kale staggered, blood dripping down his neck. I know. Then stop. He looked at her, eyes glowing faintly gold. If I stop, you die. Her breath caught. No. Listen to me, he said, his voice breaking through the chaos. The bond between us, it's stronger than him. But it needs both of us to complete it. Evelyn shook her head. You'll burn. Then let me burn for you. Lucien's laughter echoed, furious now. Do you think sacrifice saves you? It damns you both. The light flared crimson. Kale turned, grabbing Evelyn's hands, forcing her to look at him. Evelyn, remember what I told you. The veil responds to love. She nodded through tears. I remember. Then give it everything you have. The world stopped. Evelyn closed her eyes, her heartbeat sinking with Kale's. Silver light bloomed beneath their feet, soft, radiant, pure. The mark on her chest flared brighter than ever, its veins spreading across her arms, across him. Kale's voice was a whisper. Together. She smiled through tears. Together. The light erupted, white-hot, endless. Lucien screamed, his form twisting, unraveling, devoured by the brilliance. The crimson tendrils of his power shattered, scattering into ash. The marble beneath them fractured completely, falling away into infinite light. And then, silence. When Evelyn opened her eyes, she was alone. The mist had cleared. The veil was calm, no longer bleeding, but whole. Her hands trembled. Kale? No answer. Only the soft hum of the restored world. She looked down, and there, carved faintly into the marble where he had stood, was a single handprint glowing gold. She pressed her palm against it. The mark on her chest pulsed once, softly, then stilled. A voice, faint, distant, full of warmth, brushed her mind. You kept your promise. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Kale, where are you? Everywhere. In the veil. In you. The light faded gently, wrapping around her like a final embrace. Weeks passed. The city returned to its rhythm, unaware of how close it had come to annihilation. Evelyn walked among its streets at dawn, her hair catching the sunlight. She looked normal again, human. But in her reflection, sometimes, her eyes flashed gold. And when she stood beneath the cathedral ruins, she could still feel him, a warmth in the air, a whisper in her thoughts, a pulse that matched her own. The world called her survivor. The veil called her guardian. But in the quiet between breaths, when the nights stretched long and the moonlight bled silver across the stones, she still heard him. You're mine. And I'm yours. Forever. The light around her shimmered faintly, a ripple through the unseen barrier between worlds. And for a heartbeat, she swore she saw him, Kale, watching from the other side of the veil, smiling that same quiet, broken, beautiful smile. Then he was gone. But the mark on her chest glowed softly, a promise kept. The world had healed. Or at least that's what people believed. The cathedral had long been rebuilt, a sanctuary again for the living, not a battlefield for gods. The war between light and shadow was spoken of only in myths, fragments of forgotten dreams. But Evelyn remembered everything. It had been 3 years since the night the veil burned and Cale vanished into its light. 3 years since she'd last heard his voice, soft as a breath, promising forever. She now lived quietly in the old quarter, among ivy-covered stone buildings and the whisper of rain against glass. By day, she taught history at the university, an irony not lost on her. By night, she walked the cathedral ruins when the world slept, drawn there as if by gravity. Some nights she still felt him, not in words, but in shifts of air, in the flicker of candlelight that bent toward her when she passed. And always, beneath her skin, the faint pulse of the mark on her chest. A heartbeat that wasn't entirely her own. That night, winter came early. Snow fell in slow, silent sheets, blanketing the city in silver. Evelyn stood in the old cathedral courtyard, her breath curling in the cold. The rebuilt walls gleamed white, the air still and timeless. She placed her hand against the ancient altar stone, tracing the faint runes hidden beneath the frost. "I kept your promise," she whispered. "I've lived. I've guarded the veil. But you," her voice cracked, "you never came back." The wind answered softly, brushing her hair across her face. And then the sound. A heartbeat. Not hers. Deep, steady, resonant, coming from the earth beneath her feet. Evelyn froze. The mark on her chest flared, a sharp, sudden heat. The runes on the altar glowed faintly gold. She took a step back, eyes wide. No. The air shimmered, a thin ripple, like light bending through water. The snow around her lifted, weightless, swirling upward into a spiral of gold and silver dust. From within the glow, a voice emerged. Low, calm, and heartbreakingly familiar. "You didn't think I'd let you keep both worlds without me, did you?" Her breath caught. "Cale?" The light condensed, forming a silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in smoke and moonlight. The same eyes. The same impossible stillness. "The veil rebuilt itself," he said softly. "But it needed an anchor. I became the shadow beneath it until it remembered my name." Evelyn's eyes burned with tears. "You came back." He stepped closer, his form flickering slightly, as if not fully there. "Not entirely. Not yet." She reached out, her hand trembling. "Then I'll wait as long as it takes." Cale smiled, small, tender, full of centuries of sorrow and love. "You've already waited long enough." Her fingers brushed his. The air crackled with light. The world tilted, and suddenly, she was no longer standing in snow but in a field of silver mist, the space between realms. The veil. But now it was calm, alive, full of color. Gold, blue, white, it pulsed like a living heart. And Cale stood before her, solid, warm, alive. Evelyn threw herself into his arms. He caught her effortlessly, his hands pressing against her back like he'd never let go again. When they finally pulled apart, their foreheads rested together, breath mingling. "I thought you were gone," she whispered. "I was," he said. "But you called me back." She smiled through tears. "With what?" Cale brushed a strand of hair from her face, his voice a whisper. "With love strong enough to teach even shadows how to dream again." The veil shimmered around them, whole once more. Somewhere, far beyond the mist, a new dawn broke across both worlds. The balance had been restored, but not the way prophecy intended. Not through power. Not through sacrifice. Through connection. As light bled into the horizon, Cale took her hand. "This isn't the end, Evelyn. The veil sleeps, but it dreams. And dreams can always be rewritten." She met his gaze, smiling softly. "Then let's write a new one." Their silhouettes faded into the light. 2 figures, one shadow, one flame. walking hand in hand into the next dawn. As the light faded and the veil between worlds fell silent once more, their love became legend, a bond written not in blood, but in eternity. Some say the Alpha King still watches from beyond the veil, waiting for the day she calls him home again. If stories like this stir something inside you, if you crave the beauty hidden in darkness, then don't let this be the last tale you hear. Subscribe for more dark fantasy love stories, where passion meets power and every ending is just the beginning.